Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirya Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 14, Ideal Family Life, text number 39 onwards. So Narad Muni is further speaking on Grihastha Ashram. Drishtva tesham mitho nranam avagyanat matam dripa treta dishu hare rarcha kriyaya kavibhi krita. My dear king, when great sages and saintly persons saw mutually disrespectful dealings at the beginning of Treta Yuga, deity worship in the temple was introduced with all the paraphernalia. So deity worship is the main process of realization for Dwapar Yuga. As it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Kriti Yathyayato Vishnum Tretayam Yajato Makha Dwapare Paricharyayam Kalo Tadhari Kirtana. Whatever result one obtained in Satyuga by meditating on Vishnu, in Treta Yuga by performing sacrifices, and in Dwapar Yuga by serving the Lord's lotus feet, one can also obtain in Kali Yuga simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So this is how powerful Hare Krishna mantra is. In Satyuga, even person was spiritually advanced, and there was no envy between great personalities. Gradually, however, because of material contamination with the advance of the ages, disrespectful dealings appeared even among Brahmins and Vaishnavas. Actually, an advanced Vaishnava is to be respected more than Vishnu. As stated in Padma Puran, Aradhanam Sarvesham Vishnu Aradhanam Param. Of all kinds of worship of Lord Vishnu is the best. Tasmat Parataram Devi Tadyanam Samarchanam. And recommended more than worship of Vishnu is a worship of the Vaishnav. Formerly, all activities were performed in connection with Vishnu, but after Satyuga, there were symptoms of disrespectful dealings among Vaishnavas. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said that a Vaishnava is he who has helped others become Vaishnavas. An example of one who has converted many others into Vaishnavas is Narad. A powerful Vaishnava who has converted others into Vaishnavas is to be worshipped. But because of material contamination, sometimes such an exalted Vaishnava is disrespected by other minor Vaishnavas. When great saintly persons saw this contamination, they introduced worship of the deity in the temple. This began in Treta Yuga and was especially prominent in Dwapar Yuga. But they introduced it in Dwapar Yuga based on the scriptures. It's not like they thought of it and then introduced it. But in Kali Yuga, worship of the deity is being neglected. Therefore, chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is more powerful than deity worship. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu set a practical example in that he did not establish any temples or deities, but he profusely introduced the Sankirtan movement. Therefore, Krishna consciousness preachers should give more stress to the Sankirtan movement, especially by distributing transcendental literature more and more. This helps the Sankirtan movement. Whenever there is a possibility to worship the deity, we may establish many centers, but generally, we should give more stress to the distribution of transcendental literature, for this will be more effective in converting people to Krishna consciousness. So this is the heart of Prabhupada, distribution of his books. Not temple openings, not anything else. And in fact, for preaching also, he said, what is your 2 minutes of preaching going to do? A person will come and just go away. And rather, if he gets a book If he gets a book, if he takes a book, then he will read it and read it over and over again, and then he can become a devotee. Because if he gets a book, then we understand that Prabhupada is speaking to him, not us. What can we preach? What can we say? Say nothing. It's Prabhupada who's going to transform the hearts of people through his books. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Archayam eva hare pujam yashodeyate. A person who's very faithfully engaged in the worship of the deity in the temple, but does not know how to behave toward devotees or people in general, is called a Prakrit Bhakta or Kanishta Adhikari. A Prakrit devotee or neophyte devotee is still on the material platform. He certainly engages in worshipping the deity, but he cannot appreciate the activities of a pure devotee. It has actually been seen that even an authorized devotee who's engaged in the service of the Lord by preaching the mission of Krishna consciousness is sometimes criticized by neophyte devotees. Such neophytes are described by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur as, for those who cannot properly appreciate the activities of authorized devotees, deity worship is the only way for spiritual advancement. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is clearly said, Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Tara Pravartan. Without being authorized by Krishna, one cannot preach the holy name of the Lord throughout the entire world. Nevertheless, a devotee who does so is criticized by neophyte devotees, Kanishtadhikaris, who are not on the lower, who are on the lower stages of devotional service. For them, deity worship is strongly recommended. So it's not that the deity worship is not done by advanced devotees. They all worship deity, like Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Jeev Goswami, Gopal Bhatt Goswami, Raghunath Das, they all had deities. But for neophyte devotees, because they cannot understand or they cannot appreciate the activities of pure devotees or advanced devotees, and they criticize those devotees. So for them to make advancement, deity worship is recommended. So deity worship in any way it is very purifying. But in Kali Yuga, the most purifying is Sankirtan. Whether we chant or whether we distribute books, everything comes under the jurisdiction of Sankirtan movement. So for our chanting, if we are engaged in deity worship as well, it helps in chanting because we can always think of the deities, of the service of the deities while chanting. If our consciousness is going here or there, or mind is going here or there. And deity worship, it's actually the mercy of the Lord, mercy of Acharya like Srila Prabhupada, who has given us deity worship for our purification and to understand that Krishna is a person, Radharani is a person. It's not some vague idea up in the air or in the scriptures. No, they are a person and they reciprocate very much with the devotees. And also, it gives us a chance to visualize what the service or what different services would be in the spiritual world. How all the devotees must be serving them in the spiritual world. Also, we get to appreciate the mercy of Srila Prabhupada for giving us a service which is only available to Krishna or Radharani's intimate associates, like dressing them, cooking for them, bathing them, doing other services for them, making garlands for them, or any other service. In the spiritual world, the devotees would get only one service. Like, I think it's Chitra Sakhi, but I'm not sure actually. And there is one Manjari whose only service is to boil milk for Radha and Krishna. That's what he does, whole day, every day. And it's never boring. It's never monotonous. Some Sakhi only makes pan for the deities and for Radha Krishna. Of course, they are not deities over there, they are persons, they're moving around. But then, if somebody wants to make pan, even in the material world, there could be different types of pan. So, what to speak of the spiritual world? Everything that we have here is perverted reflection of spiritual world. So if we have maybe 100 types of pans here, there could be unlimited types of pan in the spiritual world. So the devotees or the associates, they just they become expert in making pan, different kinds of pan for the pleasure of Radha and Krishna. So that's why deity worship is very, very important and very satisfying to the heart. Tatovarchayam harim kechit samshraddhaya saparyaya upasatupastapi narthada purushadvisham. Sometimes a neophyte devotee offers all the paraphernalia for worshipping the Lord, and he effectually worships the Lord as a deity. But because he is envious of the authorized devotees of Lord Vishnu, the Lord is never satisfied with his devotional service. Deity worship is especially meant for purifying the neophyte devotees. Actually, however, preaching is more important. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Na cha tasmad manusheshu kashin me priyakrit. If one wants to be recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he must preach the glories of the Lord. One who worships a deity must therefore be extremely respectful to preachers. Otherwise, simply worshipping the deity will keep one in the lower stage of devotion. So simply worshipping the deity is not enough. One has to understand how to behave with the other devotees. That is more important because the deities or Krishna himself, how can he appreciate the service of somebody who's offensive towards his more intimate devotees? Krishna will never like that. Purusheshvapi Rajendra Supatram Brahmanam Viduhu Tapsa Vidyaya Tushtaya Dhatte Vedam Harestanum. My dear king of all persons, a qualified Brahman must be accepted as the best within this material world. Because such a Brahman, by practicing austerity, Vedic studies, and satisfaction, becomes the counterpart body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. From the Vedas, we learn that the personality of Godhead is the Supreme Person. Every living entity is an individual person. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is a Supreme Person. A Brahman who is well versed in Vedic knowledge and fully conversant with transcendental matters becomes a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, one should worship such a Brahman or Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is superior to a Brahman because whereas a Brahman knows that he is Brahman, not matter, means he is spiritual, a Vaishnava knows that he is not only Brahman or spiritual, but also an eternal servant of the Supreme Brahman. Therefore, worship of a Vaishnava is superior to worship of the deity in the temple. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Sakshat Dharitvena Samasta Shastra. In all the scriptures, the spiritual master, who is the best of the Brahmins, the best of the Vaishnavas, is considered to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This does not mean, however, that the Vaishnava thinks himself God, for that is blasphemous. Although a Brahman or Vaishnava is worshipped as being as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such a devotee always remains a faithful servant of the Lord and never tries to enjoy the prestige that might accrue to him from being the Supreme Lord's representative. So a Vaishnava, because he is serving the Lord, he knows his spirit soul, and he serves the Lord, but he should be worshipped as good as God. That's what Prabhupada stressed on. Not that he wanted to worship, but because his followers, they should learn how to worship, how to respect a spiritual master, because he's a representative of the Lord. He is not God. He cleared it up many times to his servants. He is not God. A Vaishnava or a devotee is not God. He's to be respected as good as God because he's a representative of the Lord. He's giving the message of the Lord on behalf of the Lord or on behalf of the previous acharyas. But the respect should be given is of that level. And not just the respect, and on the contrary, if somebody blasphemes him or commits offenses against him, then how the Lord is going to take it, we can only understand or imagine. Nanvasya Brahmana Rajan Krishnasya Jagadatmanaha Punantaha Padarajaha Trilokim Devatam Maha. My dear King Yudhishthir, the Brahmins, especially those engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord throughout the entire world, are recognized and worshipped by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the heart and soul of all creation. The Brahmins, by their preaching, sanctify the three worlds with the dust of their lotus feet, and thus they are worshipable even for Krishna. As admitted by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, Nachat Tasmad Manushayeshu, the Brahmins preach the cult of Krishna consciousness all over the world. And therefore, although they worship Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord also recognizes them as worshipable. The relationship is reciprocal. The Brahmins want to worship Krishna, and similarly, Krishna wants to worship the Brahmins. In conclusion, therefore, Brahmins and Vaishnavas who are engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord must be worshipped by religionists, philosophers, and people in general. At the Rajasuya Yajna of Maharaj Yudhishthira, many hundreds and thousands of Brahmins were present, yet Krishna was selected to be worshipped first. Therefore, Krishna is always the Supreme Person, but by his causeless mercy, he recognizes the Brahmins as dearmost to him. And that's why in that Rajasuya Yajna, Krishna personally took the service of washing the lotus feet of all the Brahmins, serving them prashadam, and then taking their plates and washing them or whatever it took care of, everything. So this is how much he respects and loves Brahmins. But the Brahmins mean the real Brahman, not by birth, by the guna and karma. And what to speak of Vaishnavas, the devotees who preach the message of Krishna, who try to bring people closer to Krishna. They are so dear to Krishna that he's ready to do anything for them. And we'll read about it. I mean, 8th canto about Maharaj Ambarish. Beautiful story. So anyway, thus ends the 14th chapter, and we still have time, so we can start the 15th chapter. And 15th is the last chapter of 7th canto. We are coming towards the end of 7th canto. So this is wonderful. So 15th chapter, instructions for civilized human beings. Shri Narad Uvacha, Karmanishta Dvija Kechit, Tapo Nishtha Nripa Pare, Swadhyaya Anya Pravachane, Kechana Jnana Yogayo. Narad Muni continued, "My dear king, some Brahmins are very much attached to fruitive activities. Some are attached to austerities and penances, and still others study the Vedic literature. Whereas some, although very few, cultivate knowledge and practice different yogas, especially Bhakti Yoga. Jnana nishtaya deyani kavyanyani antimichata dave chatadbhave syad itarebhyo yatharhata." A person desiring liberation for his forefathers or himself should give charity to a Brahman who adheres to impersonal monism, jnana nishtha. In the absence of such an advanced Brahman, charity may be given to a Brahman addicted to fruitive activities, karma kanda. So charity, so best is obviously the preachers, the Vaishnavas. If they are not available, then charity can be given to a jnana nishtha Brahman, or those who cultivate impersonal monism philosophy. And if they are not there, then karma kandiya Brahmins. There are two processes by which to get free from material bondage. One involves Jnana-kanda and Karma-kanda, and the other involves Upasana-kanda. Vaishnavas never want to merge into the existence of the Supreme. Rather, they want to be everlastingly servant of the Lord, to render service, loving service unto Him. In this verse, the words Anandayam Michhata refer to persons who desire to achieve liberation from material bondage and merge into the existence of the Lord. Devotees, however, whose objective is to associate personally with the Lord, have no desire to accept the activities of karma kanda or jnana kanda. For pure devotional service is above both karma kanda and jnana kanda. Anya bhilashita shunyam. In pure devotional service, there is not even a pinch of jnana or karma. Consequently, when Vaishnavas distribute charity, they do not need to find a Brahman performing the activities of Jnana-kanda or Karma-kanda. The best example in this regard is provided by Advaita Goswami or Advaita Acharya. After performing the Shraddha ceremony for his father, he offered charity to Haridas Thakur. Although it was known to everyone that Haridas Thakur was born in a Mohammedan family, not a Brahman family, and was not interested in the activities of Jnana-kanda or Karma-kanda. So although Advaita Acharya was a leading Brahman at that time in the whole Navadvip, so when he performed the Shraddha ceremony for his father, the first offering he gave to Haridas Thakur. And all the Smarta Brahmins or Karmakandi Brahmins who were there, they got upset. What is this Advaita Acharya doing? And Haridas Thakur was so humble, he prayed to Advaita Acharya, "What are you doing? You're making an offense against all the, I'm nobody. This is the beauty of Vaishnavas. They never think themselves any good." But Advaita Acharya said, "By giving you the first offering, I'm feeding millions of Brahmins." So this was his realization. Charity, therefore, should be given to the first-class transcendentalist, the devotee, because the Shastras recommend. O great sage, among many millions who are liberated and perfect in knowledge of liberation, one may be a devotee of Lord Narayan or Krishna. Such devotees who are fully peaceful are extremely rare. A Vaishnava is in a higher position than a Jnani, and therefore Advaita Acharya selected Haridas Thakur to be the person to accept his charity. The Supreme Lord also says, even though a person is a very learned scholar of the Sanskrit Vedic literatures, he is not accepted as my devotee unless he is pure in devotional service. However, even though a person is born in a family of dog eaters, he is very dear to me if he is a pure devotee who has no motive to enjoy fruitive activity or mental speculation. Indeed, all respect should be given to him, and whatever he offers should be accepted. Such devotees are as worshipable as I am. Therefore, even if not born in a Brahmin family, a devotee, because of his devotion to the Lord, is above all kinds of Brahmins, whether they be Karmakandis or Jnanakandis. So this is how dear the devotees are to the Lord. And he says, even though a person is born in a family of dog eaters, of course, when he becomes a devotee, he doesn't indulge in all these activities. But even though he was born as a Chandal, but if he has become a devotee of the Lord, he is very dear to the Lord. In this regard, it may be mentioned that Brahmins in Vrindavan, who are Karmakandis and Jnanakandis, sometimes decline to accept invitations to our temple because our temple is known as Angreji temple or Anglican temple. Well, that is true in Vrindavan. People still refer to ISKCON temple as the Angrej temple. But in accordance with the evidence given in the Shastra and the example set by Advaita Acharya, we give prasad to devotees regardless of whether they come from India, Europe, or America. It is a conclusion of the Shastras that instead of feeding many Jnanakandi or Karmakandi Brahmins, it is better to feed a pure Vaishnava, regardless of where he comes from. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Api Chet Suduracharo. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotion service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated. It doesn't matter whether the devotee comes from a Brahmin family or a non-Brahmin family. If he is fully devoted to Krishna, he is a sadhu. He should be considered as sadhu. So very, very great verses, great philosophy that we need to adopt. We should. And we should be respecting all the Vaishnavas, no matter what their previous background was. And in fact, it is said that if somebody considers a Vaishnava as based on his body, white or black or brown, then he is committing an offense. A Vaishnava is a Vaishnava. That's it. Of course, our dealing depends upon if it's a Uttam Adhikari or Madhyam or Kanishta. That doesn't depend upon his birth. That depends upon his devotional progress. So that's a different dealing. But Krishna is very pleased when we serve his devotees. That's all. So we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments. Okay, so we'll stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Jai Shri
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.